what red dots bring are degree of precision that's really hard to get with irons. Yes, you need to train with it. It's funny, I was talking to a buddy of mine, he's in Delta Force. And when they were considering going to red dots the first time, he was like, he was totally against it. This is obviously years and years ago. And he's like, look, a pistol for a military dude is like a reserve parachute. Like if you're going to your pistol, something has gone horribly wrong and it needs to work and it needs to be super simple. And so he's like, no. Well, they continued to test. And a couple years later, he was like, okay, now I think it is a good idea. And they've had red dots on pistols over there for, and I want to say at least a decade, probably a lot longer than that.
Hey, Tom, thanks for joining us today, man.
Yeah, no problem. Good to see you.
Yeah, we've been friends for a long time. I'm trying to think somewhere between 10 and 15 years. It's been a while.
Yeah, I think it's closer to 15. Yeah.
Yeah. But I never knew, or maybe I forgot that you grew up in Nevada. So I want to talk a little bit about you growing up and your introduction into firearms. But first, for people that may not be familiar with you, your background is very impressive. Having known you for so long, sometimes I take some of that for granted. But when I was going over, some stuff about your background, it was like, whoa, yeah, Tom is a badass. Sometimes I forget.
I appreciate the sentiment. I just feel like a middle-aged dude at this point. But yeah, I mean,
I have something about. I have an old joke we're going to get to, but not yet. So
yeah. Yeah, so I feel, really fortunate to be able to have done some of the things that I was able to do in life. I graduated from West Point, went to the 82nd Airborne Division as an infantry officer. Graduated from Ranger School and then went to Special Forces. Started selection or tryouts for Special Forces September 9th, 2001. So kind of a pivotal time. And then, graduated from the Special Forces qualification course and went to third group. And I did a couple of years as an unconventional warfare team leader, and did 2 different deployments with that team to Afghanistan. And then, I was pretty senior in the battalion, so I had to move. So I moved over to the other battalion and joined what was called the Commanders In-Extremis Force, or the CIF. And I was a sniper team leader there for a little over 2 years. And I did 2 separate deployments as a sniper team leader to Iraq.
And I wasn't familiar with that, Tom. I wasn't familiar with that term.
Okay.
It's basically counterterrorism, correct?
Yeah, so yes, CIF, Commanders In-Extremis Force, and the way it works is, I mean, there's enough of us out there now. I don't think anybody's gonna get their shorts in a wad. But you've got Delta Force, which is like that's the tier 1 asset that deploys globally. Well, few decades back, they realized, hey, it would be really helpful if we had someone who was trained, same program of instruction, same tactics, but forward deployed, so that if something pops off, there's an element close by that can respond. And so that's where the CIFs come from. And so, it's a 8-week CQB, or close quarters battle course, where it's a lot of firearms instruction, but the tactics, when you start talking CQB, the organization in the entire United States military who says this is what right looks like is Delta Force. So, you follow that POI. Now you're nowhere near their level, right? Because their selection process, they'll test 100 guys and pick up, 2, I don't know, whatever it is, something wild. But, there's like the physical haze isn't there, but very high standards. Like we started with 56. I mean, it's all Green Berets that show up. I mean, we started with 56 guys and finished with 32.
Wow.
And so it's just kind of ruthless. And so that's kind of the qualifier. And then once you pass, then you'll get assigned to the CIF. And you've got 2 assault teams and 1 sniper team. That's the troop. So I was initially assigned to an assault team, but the other troop was getting ready to leave to go to Iraq. And I was like, hey, that sniper team doesn't have a team leader. Why don't you send me over there? And so they did. So my first deployment, I wasn't sniper qualified. I was on the sniper team doing those missions, but I was an officer, whatever. But it got me outside the wire, and I got to have a lot of great experiences. And then when I came back, I went through sniper school. Not the Special Forces sniper school, which was called SODIC back then, but I went to the Marine Corps had a program called the Scout Sniper Advanced Course, which, once and you're in the Marine Corps, you go through the Scout Sniper Basic Course, you get a couple of years of experience, then you're eligible to go to their advanced course. So I just went to that. And I did well, I passed. And then I went back to my team and I did one last deployment as a sniper team leader with the CIF. And then I came out on the promotion list to major. And I was like, I I don't want to be a staff guy. So I got out of the Army at that point.
Very cool, man. We're going to hit a lot on your military career and then your career in the firearms industry following the military career. But real quick, is it common for people like you were in the Army? Is it common for you to go through this Marine Scout Sniper course? Is that pretty
Well,
typical?
yeah, I mean, at the time, it was all done. Here's how small this world is. One of my teammates had been in the Marine Corps. He had 17 years in the Marine Corps. And so when I went over to the sniper team, I was like, hey, like, what can I do? So he called up to Quantico and he talked to Robbie Reedsma, who works for HK USA, and is now a great friend. Obviously, I didn't know him back then. But Robbie was the NCOIC in charge of the Quantico Sniper School, and they talked for a little bit. And Robbie's like, put him in the advanced course. He's like, he's got a slot. So it's one of those things like once you hit the special operations world, you've got a lot more flexibility. Is someone going to go find that slot and give it to you? No. But if you've got buddies and you've got a little bit of initiative, then I mean anything's possible. And I mean, train up for that thing. I went down to Stone Bay at Camp Lejeune for 2 weeks, and it was me and three of their instructors down there for 2 weeks, just out on the range blasting. And they're like, "Hey, here's what you can expect at the advanced course," and so I had like a 2 week train up, and it was great. Um, so not common, but once you get to special operations, if you're smart, you try to do as much training with your other special operations elements as possible. One, it's a great way to learn stuff that you're not going to regularly be exposed to, and you make friends, right? You
Yeah.
never know who you're going to run into on the battlefield. I mean, it's a small, small world out there. It's nice to have friends and know people. And if nothing else, you speak the language. I mean, I got great Marine jokes because of, that time I spent. And I think that was about an 8 week course too.
Wow. No, that's great, man. Hey, going way back, growing up in Nevada,
Yep.
uh, your dad teach you how to shoot or?
Oh, yes. Always where it starts. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Me and the old man, taking 22s out to the town dump. I mean, you get arrested for it now, but I mean, it was just kind of what you did back in the day. Like, load up the truck. We would find like tin cans and bottles. I remember my dad lamenting, like, modern day aluminum cans. He's like, you can shoot them, but they won't even fall over. There's a bullet just goes through. So it was, there's no shortage of beer bottles. And so we'd set beer bottles up and sit out there and plink. And that was like one of my favorite all time things to do. And then, go to gun shows with the old man.
Yeah.
Um, my dad had two like interests. It was guns and football, and it seemed like all the gun interests went to me, all the football interests went to my brother, until we hit the teenage years, and then I started to get interested in football. He started getting interested in guns, but
Very cool. That's cool, man. So did you take to it right away? I mean, as a kid, I'm sure you don't really know what you're doing, but I mean, were you able to knock down a lot of cans? I mean,
that was it's the one thing that I tell people like that I've loved consistently since I was a little boy is
mm,
firearms. Um, So, I mean, yeah, I took to it right away. I remember making lists. I remember I had it was the 1988 Guns and Ammo Annual. Um, and I would make a list of guns that I wanted to have. And I remember I was like, oh man, there's 40 guns on this list. I'm like, that's wild. Like, nobody owns 40 guns. Well, then you grow up and you realize, like, it's not as many guns as you thought it was.
yeah. Hey, so from the time training, I shouldn't say training, plinking with your dad, getting introduced to shooting, tell me about your experience from that to going to West Point. There's some years in there. So did you continue to
Yeah.
shoot regularly?
Well, yeah, but yeah, as much as I could. But it was mostly rifles and plinking. And then when I got to West Point, um, as a freshman, you could try out for the pistol team. It was small bore. Uh, and I was like, there's a lot of reasons why you should try to be on an intercollegiate team at West Point as a smack. That's what they call freshmen, or at least that's what they did back then. Like life as a plebe at West Point was not great. Um, and so the I tried out for the team and I made the team. And so my freshman year, I shot small bore pistol. My sophomore year, but yeah, in between, you know, Lincoln at the town dump and pistol team at West Point, it was all really informal. Just me like hanging out with buddies, blasting out in the desert.
And at West Point, were you pretty impressed with the firearms instruction you received?
Yes. I mean, it was, this was, early 90s and it was all NCAA stuff. So, when you're shooting 22 an air rifle, or air pistol, I guess. Um, it's as cool. That's a lot of respect for that. You learn a degree of precision that you're not going to get anywhere else. But I always favored more of like, put it like this. I shot my freshman year. I didn't shoot my sophomore year. My junior year, I joined the combat pistol team, and that was very nice. That's where I met Kyle Lamb, the uh, service academies, West Point, Naval Academy, and Air Force all met near Fort Bragg for like a inter-academy match, and Kyle was helping out. And anyway, so that's where I was like, okay, this is my jam. Like the combat pistol and then three gun. Um, and then yeah,
Very cool. Yeah, a lot of people, because you are, probably most notably right now, you're the rifle and optics editor for Guns and Ammo.
right.
That's how we work together a lot. But people may not understand your background or may not have, stood on line next to you when you're shooting a pistol. But yeah, you're no slouch with a pistol either, brother. A lot of people found that out at our OSG roundtables, over the years. Maybe they'll take
Yeah.
the pistol.
Yeah. I mean, a pistol is one of those things that really, you got to put the time in. Like it's your reloads. It's like it's easy. Like a little bit of a bad habit on a pistol, and you're missing. Which you could say the same for rifles, like whatever. Um, and I don't put the time in. I don't get the reps. But the kind of like the way I'll explain myself to folks is, I mean, I'll shoot against anybody. I don't have any expectations that I'll win, especially against, you get some of these ranked IDPA, USPA, USPSA shooters, like you're gonna blow my doors off. But I'll never embarrass myself. And so that's kind of what I'm going for when it comes to pistols. I just don't want to embarrass myself.
Yeah. And other than your initial, learning how to shoot and stuff like that, but a lot of your shooting experience has been geared toward combat. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. Well, I
So
mean, if you look at like the bulk of my instruction, it's all been based around that. Recreationally, sure, I'll shoot, just competition matches, but all of my training, firearms instruction has been based around combat, sure.
do you think, Tom, that it gives you a little bit of a different perspective coming from the very serious, high stakes world that you were involved in for a long time, that you were embedded in, to now you just go out to shoot a PRS match or something? I'm not trying to minimize the stress level and the anxiety and all that of shooting a PRS match, for instance, but it's not exactly, real world life or death consequences like you were dealing with before.
Right. But the reason I enjoy, NRL or PRS matches is because a lot of those skills will carry over into combat. The name of the game is getting stable and getting hits fast in competition, and it's the same in combat. It's just there's a lot of other additional variables that you have to apply. And then particularly lately with PRS, I think there's, we used to call them training scars. And you go through training and like you pick up a bad habit of like, well, I'm going to administratively load or administratively unload, or and then when it comes time to do it for real in the middle of a fight, you're doing those same things that you were doing administratively, but it's a scar. That's how you learned how to do it. And under stress, that's how you're probably going to do it again. And when it comes to rifle shooting, what I've seen is PRS has turned into it's super impressive, but you're going to need a 25-pound rifle in a small 6 millimeter. Um, and the world is a barricade, right? Balance your rifle on whatever the support is. Don't touch it too much. Have the trigger set at 6 ounces. Slap it and watch where the bullet goes, and then either hit and or correct and re-engage quickly. And that is a way to shoot a rifle, but that is not how you will shoot a rifle in combat because no one wants to carry a 25-pound small 6 millimeter. Like
Yeah.
you got to have a real gun and it's got to be usable. So there are certainly differences, but I would always, if you're a military or LE guy, I encourage everyone to go shoot PRS and NRL matches. You'll quickly learn what you don't know and you'll see what's possible. To me, that was the biggest educator is you get out there and you see some 50-year-old plumber, which I used to say this, but now, I'm 50.
It's not funny anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like that's not, I'm like, wait, that's not old. But just some 50-year-old plumber, that's all he's doing is shooting his gun. And like that guy, you'll be like, I didn't even think that was possible. And he's over here burning it down. And so that's how you learn, you got to see what's possible.
Yeah, very interesting. I want to get your take on the different sort of types of shooting, focused on rifle stuff. So PRS, as you described, sort of what that is, a great way to hone your marksmanship
Right,
ability. NLR, maybe a little bit more practical or a little bit more realistic. I know I competed in an NLR Hunter match. I say competed loosely,
right,
but I participated in that
right,
for an upcoming article. I really loved it, man. As a pistol and carbine guy, everybody was super helpful. Kyle Lamb was there, providing instruction for us and stuff, and a lot of ball breaking was going on, as you can imagine, mostly at my expense. But it was a
yeah,
good time, and I did learn a lot. I was surprised in just we had a couple day prep and then a couple days of the competition, and I was a hell of a lot better when I left there than when I got there. But with the NLR Hunter, uh, it's like there's different ways you can go about it. The
right.
the guy's name's escaping me right now who developed NLR Hunter, but anyway, he was there.
Travis Ishida.
There you
Scott
go.
Satterley, Travis Ishida. Yeah.
That's it, brother. So Travis was saying that as someone coming to this for your first, match, you should, one of the ways you can do it is just think, get on target in time, get a stable position, and get a first round hit. If you have extra time, try to get a first round hit on a second target, up to 4 targets.
Right.
And that's kind of the way I went about it a little bit. Not that I didn't miss or that I got all first round hits, but that sort of was my goal. So oftentimes I would get in position, I would make a hit on a target and then have to move to another position and get another hit on target. There's only 4 minutes. So really I was supposed to go to 2 more positions and hit 2 more targets that I may
Right.
not even have made it to. But it's like, I wanted to practice building that good, stable platform and really focusing on the fundamentals. I knew I wasn't going to win anything. I wasn't trying to burn it down. Rather than scurry and stumble and fumble all over the place, I decided, I'll move as fast as I can within reason. I'm not going to try to go slow, but I'm not going to try to go faster than I
Right.
know I should be.
Well, and what I like about NRL Hunter more than PRS, right now especially, is I feel like there's more real world application to NRL Hunter because there's weight limits on rifles, right? 12 pounds and 16 pounds. There's a power factor, right? You can't show up with a little tiny gun and where the only purpose of that rifle is to knock paint off steel. Like you got to shoot a cartridge that would actually kill something. And it's got to be a light enough rifle that you would actually walk around out in the great outdoors with it. And then, it's, hey, go find, you got to find your targets. So you got to learn how to glass. You got to learn how to remember how to find them again with your scope. You got to range them. There's all these things that you have to learn how to do. And when you're trying to become a better rifleman, is kind of, for me, that's always the intent, right? I mean, sometimes I just want to go have a good time. Yes. But I like the idea of getting something in return for my time, and that's becoming a better shooter and a better rifleman. And so that requires me to work on all of those skills. So it's just, I mean, like, but we are living in the golden age of if you're a rifle nerd, man, life has never been better.
Yeah. And also for a guy who's mathematically challenged like me, there's a lot of aids now that can help you. So in other
Right.
words, we would figure out, our drop at these different distances and stuff. And we had a little thing here like a quarterback might have on his
Yep.
arm, right?
Yep.
And so we would range, we would say, okay, here's the distance and look at our chart and make a very educated guess. Whereas, that technology and those ballistic calculators and everything are just, I would imagine it's way easier now than even when you first got into it.
Oh,
Right?
forget about it. Well, and what you'll find is like, let's just take range finding binos as an example. What you'll learn as you go and shoot more matches is you'll learn that the ballistic calculators and those things are not all created equal. You'll also learn that the laser rangefinders and those things are not all created equal. Some like I remember I was shooting an NRL Hunter, it was the finale, and some smoke was coming through from forest fires and whatnot. And I got a lot of guys laser rangefinding binos weren't working because it would hit the smoke and reflect back. Well, like this is a good venue to learn this lesson so that if you're on the hunt of a lifetime, like, hey, I might have a problem. So, I need to find laser range finding binos where I can change the mode of, sometimes they'll read the strongest signal, sometimes they'll read the first signal, sometimes they'll read the most distant signal. And you got to learn to program your binos on the fly based on the environmental conditions you're in. Well, that's a skill you're only going to learn by getting up to a stage trying to range a piece of steel and it's not working. And you're like, well, what happened, and then you'll go figure it out. And now, congratulations, you get to remember that lesson for the rest of your life.
Yeah, you're bringing up a good point there, Tom. And it has broad application or implication, I should say. So, like when you go for a hunt, that is the event. That's comparable to a self-defense situation in a sense
Right.
that this is
Yeah.
the event. So you're only going to learn so much from that event. You need to learn and you need to be prepared before that event so that you can
Right.
go out there and be successful, whether it's taking down game or defending yourself. So that's something that, yeah, a lot of people take for granted a lot of the legwork or the groundwork that it takes to come to that level. And if you were to go, this is my opinion, but if you're going to go to competition and just shoot and then not practice, not focus on the things you did wrong, not analyze your performance, and then go to another one to shoot, it's like you're just having fun, but
Yeah.
losing out that element of actually gaining
Learning.
skill. Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah. Yeah, and that's, I like to think of it as you got to learn, you got to try and fail in a safe environment. We always talk about, oh, well, I feel unsafe. I get so that word is overused. Like it's exhausting. This
yeah,
is unsafe. Well, life's unsafe. But it's better to try and fail and learn lessons at a competition than it is to try and fail when your life is hanging in the balance.
yeah,
And so, or like hunt of a lifetime, where a lot of money is hanging in the balance, right? Like maybe you're only going to get one crack at this thing. And so you got to be ready to perform in a variety of circumstances. And you got to understand that, like, it's not going to be optimal conditions. Like you're never going to have plenty of time. You're never going to be able to comfortably get in the prone. It's never going to be an easy shot. Like there's always going to be a problem. So you just have to expose yourself to problems and learn how to work through them.
yeah.
Competitions are great for that.
Perfectly said, brother. Um, we've talked a little bit about training. We've talked a little bit about your military background, which that's a whole podcast in itself. But I want to talk a little bit about gear. I mean, you and I, a lot of what we do as gun riders for Guns and Ammo is we review gear. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of people, not just readers, but manufacturers who um, value your opinion to the degree that they're going to take what you say into account in the development of their products. And I know you're a humble guy and you don't want to brag about that, but I'll just say that I know that to be the case. What are some things you look for? Like, let's start out first with a rifle. And I know, dude, what's the application? There's millions of calibers. There's all kinds of different things. But for you right now, what are you interested in as far as a bolt action rifle?
Ooh.
I don't mean, I don't mean brand necessarily, but I mean, what features are you looking for?
I am, let's see. So there's two categories for me. There's precision rifle, which is going to be heavier, short action. You know, you could say like all AKA sniper rifle.
Mhm.
Um, and then there's hunting rifle, right? And I make that distinction because they're just so different. Uh, and so, what I look for in the precision rifle is I look for, this is going to sound so esoteric, action screw engagement. I look at the magazine, and I look at ease of user maintenance because life has taught me that if you're out shooting a rifle a lot, which those types of rifles, you're going to have to spend a lot of time training. One, you better be able to maintain it. Two, if all you got is two action screws that are barely threaded into the receiver, that's a point of failure that's going to surface at the worst possible time. And then the magazine, like I'm a huge fan of double stack mags, which require 60-degree throw and three lug actions almost exclusively, because every time you fire the rifle, you have to cycle the bolt. And I don't like the janky, 90-degree lift, no problem. But a lot of it's an AICS mag, like it's just a janky feeling. And like, we've been working in this industry for a long time. I've learned that I just like things to be nice and smooth. Um, and kind of the way I look at it is that the more you have to fight your rifle to get it to feed, your rifle's trying to tell you it's unhappy. It's like, hey, this isn't a great arrangement for me. Like, could we do a better job? And so as soon as you go to double stack and everything's effortless and smooth, it's like, hey, that's not just a matter of like, it is more enjoyable, but your rifle is telling you, like, you don't have to fight me to get me to work. Like, I want to work for you. Now it's not a person, but mechanically, anything that's easier to operate is probably going to last longer. It's going to be more enjoyable to work with. So those are three things I look at on a precision rifle.
And what about on the hunting rifle? You're looking for something what it's lighter in weight, maybe a shorter barrel.
Yeah, I like, yeah, that's a big trend right now. Lighter weight, shorter barrels. Magazines are really limited. You're probably gonna be shooting AICS or you're gonna have a floor plate. Um, but look for quality. I try to get away from Remington 700 footprints because I don't like the two action screws. That one applies on the hunting rifles as well. But for a hunting rifle, pay attention to the stock. If you got an injection molded stock, if you put a bipod on it and start loading it, like you can move the point of impact really easy and not even realize you're doing it.
Wow.
So get picky on stock. Like get a good carbon fiber stock, get a good fiberglass stock. Chassis are cool, but they're usually a little bit heavier.
Very good information, dude. As far as what are your thoughts on a semi-auto rifle for hunting, and maybe speak to like the accuracy potential of a bolt action versus a semi-auto?
Ooh. Um, Semi-auto is going to be faster. Re-engagement, like that's I don't think you can really dispute that. It is harder to shoot a semi-auto rifle as accurately as a bolt action rifle. And it has to do with from the time that sear releases, and a semi-auto is probably an AR, right? You got this
Yes.
big pendulum swinging up and smacking the back of the bolt carrier with the firing pin and bolt carrier, which induces a ton of vibration. And then you've got different components. You got upper receiver fits a lower receiver. You've got the bolt threaded in the receiver, and then there's just a lot going on with a semi-auto that is not going on with a bolt action.
And you have
So
potential feeding issues with a semi-auto there.
yes, well, yeah, you can't just throw powder in a case, seat the bullet, and go blast. Like there's pressure, the pressure curve matters on a semi-auto, and then once you get away from 5.56 and you go to 6 arc or 6.8 SPC, like you're getting into odd case head sizes. And so maybe your magazine likes it, maybe it doesn't. So you can really quick because those are newer and just haven't been really tested. I mean, we've been shooting the M16, M4 variant since what, 1957? I mean, like we worked the bugs out of that thing a long time ago.
Yeah.
And as long as you're shooting 5.56, it's great, or 308. Um, but change to an odd caliber, or hey, I got a hunting load that I really like. Hey, maybe the gun doesn't like it. With a bolt action rifle, once that bolt lies lock closed, if the primer goes off, whatever's in that case is going out the muzzle. So you've got a lot more flexibility and there's just a lot less moving going on. Like in a bolt action, when that sear releases, the firing pin does this. And so it's the rifle's not as stressed out. It's just easier. Like if you want to shoot, everybody's like, I got a half-minute rifle. I'll play along. Um, you want a half-minute rifle for 10 shots, that's going to be a bolt action. Like you maybe you can find a gas gun, but finding someone who can shoot that gas gun that well, like man, well, I'm special. Like I've always just understood rifles. I don't believe you. Like that's a guy that's gonna have to put in a ton of time shooting gas guns to get that good.
Yeah.
So it's just harder to shoot gas gun than a semi-auto than it is a bolt.
Yeah, that makes sense, man. So scopes, I mean, you're the go-to guy for scopes. Um, what are some misconceptions that you think people have as far as a scope? I mean, dude, it's a
Yeah.
wide question. I
Oh,
could talk for an hour on it, but just
yeah. So it doesn't take much scope to see a target in broad daylight, which is when 95% of scopes are purchased and when they're, evaluated. If you want to, where you'll learn that a cheap scope is not doing you any favors is, well, I'll tell you where I learned. Two lessons jump to mind. PRS match, overcast, rainy, steel running down the wood line. The last piece of steel is buried probably 20, 30 yards back in the wood line in shadow. And I had a $1,200 scope and no problem seeing the ones that were out in what limited daylight there was. But as soon as it hit this piece of steel that was shot up back in shadow, I saw nothing. And so I was like, well, that sucks. So And then the other time it was a Night Force ELR match. So the steel was 12 or 1300 yards away, and the sun's coming up like right into our face. And it's a bluff, and the steel is sitting in shadow in the bluff. So you got all of this stray light coming in the front, and you're trying to find shot up pieces of steel. So it's like they're camouflage. You're looking for curved lines at 12 and 1300 yards. And I had a really good scope, so I could see it, but I saw other guys that had no chance. And so until you put yourself in that position, it's like, well, this $300 scope, I can go shoot tiny groups at the range. Yeah, you can. And if that's your evaluation criteria, then God bless you. That's all you really do need. My problem is like when I get on an airplane, I get really picky about what I take with me because now I'm spending money to get just even to get there.
Yep.
And I don't want to have the hunt or the match derailed because I tried to save $500 on a scope. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not
And
going to do it.
you may not have the shot that you're waiting for on an animal in a hunting scenario, for instance, in the middle of the day. It's
Yeah.
Murphy's Law. It's going to be first light or last light. And
That's when animals move. Yep.
that's in that scope that, that does well on the range and is very economically priced. As you mentioned, it may be okay during ideal conditions, but in less than
Yeah.
ideal conditions, you're going to wish you paid more.
Yeah.
For
Or
something.
even in daytime, if you're looking for an animal that's bedded down in shadow, if you got a little bit of stray light, if the sun's kind of shining on the objective a little bit, and you're trying to pick an animal out in shadow, even in the daytime, but if you got like a piece of steel with sun shining on it, yeah,
Yeah.
$100 scope, have at it.
Tom, it's funny because I do a lot of pistol reviews, and it's so hot in Arizona these days. We reserve the range starting at 7 a.m. So we're out there
Yeah.
at 7 a.m. and almost every pistol that I review has a red dot on it. And it can make a big difference. So red dots are great, but guess what? If the sun is coming in just right, it can create sort of a blown out dot, and it can do some really weird things. So it's
Yeah.
good to train in all those conditions so that you understand that a little bit and are not freaked out in a
Yeah.
self-defense situation if you draw your pistol out and you got some weird sun or some weird reflection.
Yeah.
And
Well, and
the same goes for rain, right? I mean, rain
oh,
can wreak havoc on your gear as well.
and you got, I'm looking at you and I see Aimpoint over the top of your head. So like, I feel compelled to say that's one of those things like Aimpoint red dots. There's a lot of red dots out there that look like aim points. You'd be like, oh, it's the same thing. No, it's not. Years ago, I was writing an article on Aimpoint, and I was talking to the guy who handled all the military repairs. And he said when the military first issued, I think Comp M4, right? Back in the late 90s, like those things would come in for repair. And he's like, we would get units in for repair, but they would all autopsy all of them. And they figured out like you have to make the circuits a certain way. You have to ruggedize in this way. And he goes, anymore, the only ones that come back are the ones that like went under the tread of a tank. And it's like, well, congratulations. Like we can't resurrect that thing. Well, that's decades of watching their product get abused, autopsying and learning from it. And so like when you start talking scopes or red dots, you got to kind of go with the companies that are paying attention to stuff like that and who are always trying to improve. Like there's a lot of scope companies, God bless them, that pop up overnight and it's like, well, it's made in the same optics factory as this Night Force or Vortex or it's loopholes doing their own thing, right? So like, well, it's made in the same factory, so it's just as good. I'm like, well, just because it's made in the same factory does not mean it's made to the same specifications.
Exactly.
But you're kind of like arguing with a wall. Like really, like I stay away from the online conversations because you're probably arguing with a 14-year-old. And so like just don't do it. Which is unfortunate because there are a lot of good guys out there looking for info. But like I just don't want to wade into the food fight. Which is why I like print so much, just
Yeah.
write it up in an article and send it out there.
But with regard to getting what you pay for, we talked about scopes, rifles. It's
Yeah.
certainly applicable too with optics, red dot optics, for instance. Aimpoint is going to be on the higher end compared to the stuff out there.
Yeah.
And then you and I are not impressed with the term mil spec, right? But,
No.
but that term does show that for private citizens, they are very much interested in what has had success in the law enforcement and military arenas because
Right.
that's where you're getting hard tested. These products are getting hard tested on a daily basis. And so there is a big difference. Yeah, there's a cost difference, but there's a quality difference. And how much is it worth for something that you're potentially going to bet your life on in the case of like a concealed carry pistol. And again, if all you can afford is a $200 optic, I mean, I'm not being an elitist or anything, but you should buy the best that you can afford.
Right. And my personal and so you and I have been working in this industry for a long time, so we get to touch all the nice stuff, and it's easy for us to get spoiled. But I remember 14-year-old me that loved guns and wanted to go shooting all the time, and there just wasn't a lot of money. Uh, so like my philosophy is you're better off if you just want something to go to the range and blast, get whatever you want. It can be cheap. If it breaks, who cares? If it's got a good warranty, send it back. Like everything doesn't have to be expensive. But if it's something that you're going to use for a task that's important, like self-defense or hunt of a lifetime, you are better off saving your money, paying attention to what has been fielded across decades and successfully. If you're looking at the military, look for products that have been renewed repeatedly. Um, because those things have had the brakes beat off them. And so, okay, like those are the ones I would be like, okay, what do I got to do to get just one of those, because I want to have it for, the hunt of a lifetime. It's going to be on a self-defense gun or whatever. But don't fall prey to, hey, new company X is making widget X and it's just as good as so and so. Because it's probably not. You don't get something for nothing.
Yeah, no, excellent points. Tom, I want to ask you, well, we're on the topic of optics. I want to talk a little bit about pistol optics. First of all, what's your take? I know, just like me, you're a couple years younger, but we learned to shoot with iron sights, and there were no red dots to speak of. There were, but not like readily or commercially available. Guys were doing stuff with red dots, but it wasn't practical enough for concealed carry, for instance. Nowadays, you can't. It's hard to find a manufacturer that doesn't have a slide cut for an optic or several different types of optics. What's your thoughts? You prefer iron still, or are you a red dot guy for pistols?
Red dot guy.
Yeah.
I mean, irons, if you're going to stuff a pistol in your pants, sometimes it's hard to get a red dot in there too. So, for concealed carry or deep concealed carry, if you irons still work, they're just as good as they ever were. But what red dots bring are a degree of precision that's really hard to get with irons. Yes, you need to train with it. Um, but it's funny. I was talking to a buddy of mine. He's in Delta Force, and when they were considering going to red dots the first time, he was totally against it. This is obviously years and years ago. And he's like, look, a pistol for a military dude is like a reserve parachute. Like if you're going to your pistol, something has gone horribly wrong and it needs to work and it needs to be super simple. And so he's like, no. Well, they continued to test, and a couple years later, he was like, okay, now I think it is a good idea. And they've had red dots on pistols over there for, and I want to say at least a decade, probably a lot longer than that.
Yeah, and they're becoming super prevalent in law enforcement as well.
Yes,
Where there
for
was
all the same reasons.
Yep.
Yes, for all the same
And
reasons.
then they've come a long way. Your buddy on Delta, he had reason to be nervous or leery of red dots back in the day because there was battery concerns, there was electronic issues, and I experienced a fair share of those in my day as well, and it made me a little apprehensive. But I was a pretty early adopter, and one of the things that helped me was just, as I got older, my ability to see those sights very clearly diminished. I have really good far vision, but up close, it's difficult. Red dot solves the problem because I can see the target uncorrected. I got good far vision, and then it gives me that really precise aiming point. So yeah, I'm a huge fan. And battery life now is like, come on, 50,000 hours or something.
Yeah, forget about
it. And
now I look at mounts, and how it attaches to the slide, because manufacturers are learning, right? Like we've learned a lot in the last 20 years, red dots on pistols, but we've also learned like, hey, how you mount that to the slide matters. And I'll tell you, this is going to seem like a shameless plug, but I don't mean it to be. I went out and bought, own money, no discount, no nothing. I bought a Glock 19 with a KOA because I was like, I just really like, to me, that's the next evolution. And so, they were so new. I'm like, and I'm the rifle and optics guy at Guns and Ammo. Like, I'm not going to be able to test that or write about it. So I was like, but I really want one. So I just went down to the gun shop and I was like, hey guys, first one comes in, please. I got on the list. And when it came in, if a few weeks, maybe it was a couple months later, they called me and I ran down there with my money in my hot little hand and bought it.
Such a great setup, man. That A cut makes so much sense. The way it goes in,
Mechanically,
yeah, the
yep.
tool goes in, and then the rear sight secures it in place.
And then you're getting all of the decades of experience in the actual red dot sight itself. And the reason I did it is I was like, okay, I like to have, like if the apocalypse starts, which is ridiculous, but like, whatever calamity strikes,
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer you should have one really good pistol that you can take with you and not worry about. And that's the pistol, that pistol, that optic.
I've been carrying a Glock 48 with a Koa, and I absolutely love it. I mean, it's
Yeah. That's on my to buy list.
yeah, yeah,
Just between us girls. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
I like the 19.
yeah.
She's a little thick. But I just haven't got around. Like they're still hard to find
You,
48s
you
from
know what?
Topaz.
What another thing too, and again, shameless plug for the Koa, but I carry it, dude. I'm not, it's you're not a shill if you believe in it. You're actually
No.
using it.
And that's why I brought it up. Like
Yeah,
no one hooked me
yeah,
up. Like
yeah,
I just
yeah.
went and bought
Yeah,
it.
no. But what I like about it is you need a rugged housing on anything that you're going to bet your life on, right? Which
Right.
Koa has, but not at the expense of it being so thick that the window is like,
Yeah.
a quarter sized square shaped window,
Right.
where it's hard to find the dot. You know what I'm saying? So the dot size is the window size rather is large compared to the dimensions, the footprint and everything, which makes it really cool for a Glock 19, which is compact. But let's face it, by today's standards, a Glock 19 is more full size than compact, I would say, or even a compact like a 48 or a 43.
Yeah. See, I like a 48 because, it's thickness too.
Yeah.
If you're going to
Yep.
stuff a pistol in your pants,
Exactly.
thickness is what
Yep.
gets you. So
You're absolutely
that's
right.
why 48's on my list.
Tom, that's good stuff about red dot pistols. I want to ask you about um, optics on a carbine. Um, what's your take on is it a distance issue? Like what makes low power variable optic the better choice versus a red dot or vice versa? And then also
Okay.
to piggyback, what's your take on like a red dot with a magnifier behind it?
Okay. So let's go red dot versus low powered variable. If you know the preponderance of your shooting is going to be fast and inside 200 yards, red dot all day, every day. A lot of times, the low power variable crowd, they're like, well, I can set it at 1 power and use it like a red dot. No, because you're looking through a tube,
Yes.
right? You're looking through a tube that's this long versus a red dot that's this long. And when you're trying to get behind it fast, it makes a difference. Can you dial it down to 1 power and use it as a red dot? Yes, you are going to be a little bit slower than if you just used a red dot. The other thing that gets the low power variable crowd is people don't pay attention to the illumination system. If you want to use it as a red dot, like you got to be able to step out in bright daylight and still see the dot. And a lot of times people are like, well, everybody who makes a low power variable is like, this is daylight bright. No, it's not. If it's got a 2032 in it, it does not, unless it has what's called a diffractive illumination system, which is where inside the scope on the end of the LED, they put a lens to focus the light, kind of like a laser, into the center of the reticle. Because most low powered variables, it's just a red light that washes the lens. And then there's material in the reticle that reflects 20% of it back to you. Well, a 2032 does not have enough juice to hit it with enough light for you to see it in bright daylight conditions. You put a diffractive system in there, put a lens on it and focus it, and now all of a sudden 20% of the light's getting back to you. In that case, a 2032 will work. So how do you know what's got a diffractive system and what doesn't? Well, the ones that I know for a fact do are the Night Force 1 to 8 NX8, 1 to 8 ATAC R, the 1 to 10 Vortex Gen 3 Razor, and I think the Leupold Mark V does, Mark V, Mark 6. But you're going to pay for that. And inevitably, somebody's gonna be like, you forgot this one. Yeah, well, maybe I did. If you're buying a low power variable less than $1,000, it doesn't. Like, so you either look for low powered variables, like Trigicon's got a 1 to 8 with a double A. That's a double A, man. It's got enough juice. Like, it doesn't care what kind of illumination. So that thing's throwing out so much light. So pay attention if you're going to use the low powered variable as a red dot. If you know you're going to go past 200 yards, go low powered variable.
Yeah.
And then it's a matter of, do you really need to, are you really going to use it like a red dot, or you just like to be able to say that? Maybe you don't need a diffractive system, maybe you do. Red dot with a magnifier. Um, you're going to learn this lesson the hard way. You can induce a lot of parallax by putting a magnifier behind a red dot. And the only way to do that, if I'm going to do that, I'm going to use red dot and magnifier from the same manufacturer, and I'm going to, do not be alarmed, I'm going to read the owner's manual and set it up how they recommend. Because if you just go slapping magnifiers behind red dots, like I've seen where at 200 yards, you can induce enough parallax to, on a full size E-type, be aim center mass and miss. And you'd be like, that's ridiculous. No one's got that much parallax. Yeah, huh? Because I lived through it. I was like, what is wrong with me? And then I realized, I started moving my head. And I was like, oh, Lord, have mercy.
Hey, you're bringing up a
So
good point, Tom. What is wrong with me? As a gun, I mean, not what is wrong with me, because that's again a
there's a
lot.
lot. Yeah, that's we don't have the time.
Appropriate. But I mean, when I go to the range, whether it's a rifle, pistol, whatever, I'm expecting a certain degree of accuracy, right? And I know like what the parameters should be. And if I'm shooting something, a quality load out of a quality handgun, and I'm getting really terrible results from an accuracy standpoint, the first thing I look at is, what am I doing wrong? Am I slapping the trigger? Am I not braced enough? Is the optic on tightly? Is everything what it should be? But a lot of times, and I learned this from Eric Poole, who's the editor of Guns and Ammo, who kind of, I think, brought you into this whole game, like he brought me into it. Watching him do gun reviews, and this is a long time ago, so he was less experienced then, but he's very confident in his ability. And if something doesn't work right, he doesn't rule out the possibility that it could be shooter error, but he also realizes that, hey, this load may just not work well with this pistol. There's a lot of variables. And the first thing you have to look at is yourself. Are you doing everything right? Then you have to look at your other variables, and you have to understand that just because you're not getting accurate results does not mean you're a poor shooter or that you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, I call it the rush to self-loathing.
Yeah.
Right. When I'm at the range and it's not going right, I'm like, I'm a horrible person. Like I forgot. And I'm like, wait. Like you've been doing this for, I mean, we're closing in on 20 years now.
Yeah.
Take a breath. Okay. If it's a bolt action rifle, first thing I'm checking, because everybody's like, oh, you get cherry picked guns and
Oh,
manufacturers send you.
I love when they say
If you saw some of the things I pulled out, like show guns, and I've learned, like, hey, check the action screws, check the receiver, the scope base to the receiver, check the rings to the base, and then check the scope. Like there's a million and one reasons, but I spent a lot of time, I call it gun wrestling, right? When the gun's not performing the way you want it to, and once you get past self-loathing, you're like, okay, now I got to wrestle this thing and find out where the problem is. Um, and you learn to anticipate problems. But you also realize that, hey, I've done this enough that I know that under these conditions, with the supports and the train and the aids that I've brought with me and the ammunition that I'm using, that it's highly likely that this is either rifle or scope. But it's because you've suffered, you've put in the miles, that you can make that prediction. And that's why Eric was talking that way, is he's like, no, like I've suffered, like I've learned, I know, learn the hard way what I can and can't do, and this is not me.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
more often than not, you'll be right.
it's not being arrogant, it's just being confident that I know I'm adhering to the fundamentals of marksmanship.
Right.
I'm doing my part. It's not, it's out of your control. Some of it's out of your control.
Yeah.
So now, Tom, we're not quite winding down yet, but we're getting on the home stretch here. It's time now for my old joke, which is kind of weird because I'm older than you. But
Yeah.
In 2020, Bushnell presented you with a very prestigious award, which is the Bill McRae Lifetime Achievement Award. And so you're too young to be receiving a Lifetime Achievement Award, but congratulations. And tell
Thank
us
you.
a little bit about what that award is and what it means to you.
So that award started. It was a gun writer who was instrumental in educating the reader on how optics work. And I'm a big believer in. I always think of 14-year-old me, right? Money's tight, but I love this. You got to explain to people what their money buys. And so he was one of the first optic greats. And so they created this award and named it after him. And I love that award because that's the spirit of it. It's, hey, you know, we've all known like narcissists, right? They're like, maybe they're really talented and they're really gifted, but they love themselves. And it's just like, it's exhausting. But if you can go and learn a lot and become really knowledgeable and you make it your passion to share what you're learning with the people that are reading your articles or consuming the content that you create, that's a valuable service. Like 14-year-old me would love that more than anything when I could read a gun article and at the end of it, I was like, I learned something. I'm smarter. I know more. And so that's the spirit of the article, or that's the spirit of that award. And that's why it meant so much to me. They took me out to dinner at SHOT Show and they said, hey, we're going to present you with this award. And I was really flattered, and I asked them why, and that's what they explained to me is they're like, look, we think, we look at the whole industry and we think you're doing a phenomenal job of trying to explain optics to people because it's not like you can take a scope apart at your house.
Yeah.
It's this magical tube that you look through and then everybody wants to talk about why theirs is better. So if you want to explain it, like you got to go to the factory, you got to watch those things get built and ask a lot of questions and take a lot of notes and then rinse and repeat. And after several years of doing that, um, you start to understand what it takes and why a $200 scope is never going to be as good as a $2,000 scope.
And Tom, even someone with your experience and your skill level, if you were an ass and you were just in it for yourself, it's like, okay, well, here's a very talented dude, but what good does it do anybody else or society as a whole? So
Right.
when you take that experience and your background and you take the skill level that you've developed over the years and you combine that with a passion for understanding how things work and why things perform a certain way, and I think Eric used this word about you, very curious about your topic, then you're going to find information out that's going to help you pass that along to people who are less knowledgeable. And it's going to make them, as you mentioned, more knowledgeable, more skilled. And that I think is key. I'd rather learn from somebody who's, maybe he's not a 10 in a skill level. Maybe he's a 9 or an 8, but he's a phenomenal teacher.
And he wants to share.
I'd rather learn from
Yes.
that dude than the dude who's an 11 on a scale of 1 to 10, but he doesn't know why he's good, right? Because
Right. Or he's not interested in passing it on.
well, that's true
Like,
too.
like we got the best job in the world, man. Like our job is to go learn and then share what you found out. Like to me, I would never like school teacher. Oh, like no, there's absolutely no way. But hey, Tom, go learn about the latest gun widget out there and explain to anybody who's willing to invest a few minutes in reading your article why that thing matters. Oh, yes, please. Because again, that's how I get to keep doing the things that I love. Like this is the one thing I've loved since I was a boy. And now, in a way, like I get paid to just learn about stuff and share it. Like, oh, are you kidding me?
And you can see you're still excited about it, man. It's not just like, oh,
Yeah.
here we go. I got to write this other.
Gotta write another one. Yeah. Some days.
Okay, yeah, for sure. I was going to say I've done that a few times, but no, it's and it can get that way if you're not super passionate and super
Yeah.
like yearning for knowledge about that topic, because so many rifles, so many scopes, so many optics, so many pistols are so similar these days.
Right.
Oh, here's another Glock clone. Here's another, whatever the case is. So it can be sometimes feel a little bit like Groundhog's Day, but yeah, if you dive deep, you can find the differences and stuff. And I think that's what we're supposed to do as gun riders is, we don't get the cherry picked guns that we
No.
shill and we cheat on the accuracy results. We shoot 100 yards at 25 yards and all.
Right.
It's not what it's
Right.
about. What it's about is we actually learn. We ask questions of the manufacturer to try to provide information that the reader might not have otherwise had access to. Those are the
Right.
things I think that keep you and I going after all these years of gun writing. Shifting gears from the gun writing, Tom, I want to talk a little bit about Guns and Ammo TV, because you've been doing that for years, as am I. As a matter of fact, I think next week you and I are both going to be at a gun site doing some Guns and Ammo TV filming. Who roped you into that first of all, and then what have you learned from doing TV for these last several years?
First guy that wrote me in was Jim Bequette.
Okay.
And I did so horrible of a job. I'm amazed that I got invited back. And the only reason I got invited back was because of the Special Forces background. And there were some subjects where, um, that was valuable enough to override my poor performance because, being on camera, everybody thinks it's easy until the camera's pointed at them, and then it's
It's
I
weird.
don't know what to do. I don't know what to do with my hands. Right? You talk weird, they act weird, your mind goes blank. Um, but what I love about TV is, again, most of our segments are 3 minutes. It's we'll sit there, we'll figure out, okay, what matters, and then kick the cameras on and yuck it up a little bit, try to keep it entertaining, explain what's going on, maybe burn it down a little bit for some B-roll. And what I love about it is it's different than writing.
Yes.
It's the same general principles, but it's different. And I love the crew. Like
Yeah.
that gang of dudes that shows up for Guns and Ammo TV, that's like go hang out with your buddies for a week, have a great time, and here's your paycheck. Yeah. Like till the
Vacation.
day I die, until I get too old where they're like, no one wants to see you
You're on
anymore. I'll be like,
you're on
all right,
vacation, no honeydews for a week, right?
right.
And you get to hang
Yeah.
out with these dudes and film some cool content.
Yeah.
That's fun. But Tom, it's funny. You mentioned you thought you didn't do well the first time. I bet you did really well, but it's just there's so much to analyze, and we're our own worst critic, and all of that. But there really are a lot of people that are super knowledgeable, super articulate, and super smart. But as soon as that little red light starts going, they can't
Yeah.
get. And
Can't spit it out.
we've all been there, bro. We've all
Yeah.
7, and all I'm trying to do
It's a learn. It's
you're on with
it's a learned skill. But it's you got to learn to be relaxed in front of the camera.
Yeah.
But I'm thankful for it because like the world is like video is not going to become less relevant.
Yes.
So I'm thankful that I've had the opportunity to suffer. You watch YouTubers and stuff, and it's
Yeah.
like, oh, fellas,
It's rough sometimes for them. Yeah.
yeah, it's hard because they don't have a team to learn from. They're out there figuring it out on their own. Like, God bless them.
We're fortunate with Outdoor Sportsman Group, or OSG as we call it for short, to be able to do not just the print, but also the TV stuff. Also,
Websites, digital,
digital. That's what I'm looking for. Digital content.
Yeah.
All that. I mean, it's good stuff. And I think it makes us that much more well-rounded. And, me having been an instructor for many years before I was a writer, I've always tried to make my articles seem like a miniature course or whatever. You know what I mean? I try to speak very, in very plain English and plain terms that make it easy for the reader to understand. And I think that also is something important for TV that we've learned probably from television, is that another thing too you hit on is like, okay, you got 3 minutes. Well, in the beginning, when I was doing TV, I'd be like, okay, I can teach this stuff in 3 minutes. And dude, I'm trying to teach like 8 hours worth of material in 3 minutes. And then I'm pissed off at the end because I forgot to mention a couple things. It's like, dude, pare it down,
Well,
keep making
pare it down.
Yeah.
Look, you hate to think of everything as a transaction, but someone is giving you their time. You have to give them something in return. So ideally, like if it's a 3 minute segment, let's come up with 2 or 3 important things to know about this widget. And then let's try to make it entertaining so it's not painful to watch. And that's, to me, that's TV,
Yeah.
But when you're like, hey, you got 15 minutes, okay, that's a whole different order, right? That's a whole different methodology. That's a lot easier, I might add.
Yeah.
But yeah, TV's a learned skill for sure.
But it's interesting too, with TV, I will at least forsake some level of articulation in favor of having a more relaxed and more casual, inviting conversation. What I think we're all shooting for is for you and I to be talking, whether it's on TV or on a podcast or whatever, and for the viewer or the listener to feel that they're there hanging out with us, hearing what we're saying. Because when you're having an actual conversation, there's ums and uhs and all that, and nobody freaks out like Tom Beckstrand's a dipshit. Did you hear that?
Well, they might think that anyway, and sometimes they're not wrong. But like it's the whole point is just feel like you're hanging out with the fellas, having a conversation about something that you think is interesting.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to hanging out with you next week, man, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Before we wind down here, Tom, you're doing a ton of stuff for Guns and Ammo, Outdoor Sportsman Group, Guns and Ammo TV, all that stuff. Where can people go if they want to find more out about the types of things that you're doing? Is there like a social media place, gunsandammo.com, or obviously they could buy the magazine?
Yeah, the magazine and gunsandammo.com.
Okay.
That's really kind of just with the, demands on time and
Yeah.
whatnot. That's probably the most consistent places I'll surface. So
Very
yeah,
cool.
those two places.
Dude, thank you so much for joining us today, man. It was a lot of fun, like I knew
Thanks.
it would be, and I think it's very informative. So we appreciate your time, brother.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. This is great. I look forward to hanging out with you next week and
Heck yeah.
pick up where we left off.
We'll do it, brother. All right, guys, that's a wrap for this episode with Tom Beckstrand. If this episode resonated with you, be sure and let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe to Aimpoint's Taking Aim podcast. We'll see you next time.